I mean, over the years, we thought about it a lot, of course, because it's not the first time that there's been a pandemic on
Hmm.
Earth. It's just that this is one of the very few times it's actually hit us over in the United States directly. So I thought about it a lot before, not specifically about this case, because of course all of the technology is so far away right now that it's not going to apply to the situation at
Hmm.
hand. Um, but you're right. Not only would would having at least good sort of machine computer, brain machine interfaces available could be a way for example, someone to care for a patient at a distance, not expose themselves to a virus, and make their expertise available in I guess a hospital setting, even if they themselves cannot go to the hospital because they have to isolate themselves. That's all true, and that could be very useful. And then furthermore, of course, if you actually had uh, whole brain emulation, then we would be talking about a whole different situation. And I'm not going to say that computers never get viruses, because they do,
Hmm.
of course.
Yeah.
But backups help a lot, and it's very hard to have backups of biological people. So when people are in danger of losing their lives to a virus like this one, it just beyond it being a virus specifically, it again demonstrates how fragile we really are as individuals, and that's something that we always have to struggle with one way or another. Um, but yeah, there are. If I were to just go on about sort of science fiction scenarios of what you could do if you had mind uploading, we can come up with strange situations where you would say, well, what if we needed 10 more doctors? Well, you could just make 10 copies of the doctor with his same
Hmm.
with the same brain and all the same expertise and everything. But it would be weird to come up with a scenario like that, because you can't really imagine that a future would exist in which everything is exactly the same and we have the same problem with these hospitals and the virus, and we just need more doctors. The only thing that's different is we have mind uploading. That's just
Yeah.
not going to happen. Society is going to be totally different at that point, at least in some respect. But that doesn't take away from the fact that this is this sort of problem, pandemics and biological vulnerability, also the necessity to be somewhere to be able to do something rather than being able to be at a distance and carry out things through remote connections and virtual reality and all of that. These are all considerations that play a part in the motivation for why something like mind uploading is interesting as a way for society to move forward and to just to be more robust in a sense.
You've obviously spent a lot of time working side by side with people in the field of whole brain emulation, and have spoken to many different personalities and researchers, and have gotten to know people well. What do you think is an early experience that separates you from other people in the community, or something that may give you different insights than what most bring to the table?
um, Phew. I it doesn't don't most people have different developments and bring new insights to the table? I'm just wondering what exactly you're asking about.
Yeah, everyone would have different insights to bring to the table, but for you on an individual level, what would be one of those early experiences in your life that would have produced your insight, the insight that you are bringing that other people in your community may not have, or an experience that others haven't likely went through?
And when you say my community, do you mean that I have that other people who are working on whole brain emulation don't have, or who are you comparing with
Other
here?
people working on whole brain emulation, yeah.
Well, I guess you see, the interest in the field and also the number of people involved with it in one way or another has grown over time. And I guess one of the things that I have that maybe many of the people working in the field now don't is I'm old. Uh, I was there from from back when it was still not popular at all. So it was just when you're there at the start, then you're automatically a pioneer. Um, I I don't think that there is anything very special or particular that I don't know, that gives me the skill or the ability to get into these sorts of ideas, and then others don't have them. I think a lot of people have very similar ideas. It's just that we all have a variety of different goals, and then sometimes something becomes extremely important for you or not so important. It's your first or second priority. Um, I think one thing that really mattered to me is that this is just a lot of fun. Um, I, tinkering with stuff, but that's something that also isn't really unique to me.
Hmm.
Most engineers have that feeling as well, and artists too. Artists love to create and tinker, and it's just this. You can make something, I mean, so for instance, um, back when I used to play more computer games, there used to be these role-playing games where you had to go through various map-based areas and stuff, and it quickly became obvious to me that I was having way more fun just uh, designing the maps or programming the games than playing them. So creating the thing that then you get to play with is just a lot of fun. It's so much fun to dive in there, and I think a lot of programmers can understand that as well.
Yeah.
Um, but that's not really unique. So I'm not sure if I have a unique experience that somehow made me uh, I don't know, that made me different from other people in some way, such that I would do what I'm doing. Um, a lot of coincidence, perhaps. So the sort of thing that you get involved with and the kind of project that you happen to not drop and keep on working on. Yeah, I'm sorry that it's not more fantastical than that. It would be nice if there was a great origin story, but
No,
it's not really there.
that's a good answer. When you mentioned being older, even if that's not a particularly unique trait, it still allows you to think about situations in a way that other people can't without that experience. Like you mentioned that you've been through pandemics before, and one of the big differences that it's hitting us now. But even the pandemics that haven't hit the U.S. as hard, like I don't really remember the pandemics of the earlier 2000s much at all because I was maybe 9 or 10 years old, and for
Hmm.
people uh, that go through something multiple times, I think they tend to have a more informed outlook and maybe a more realistic outlook and may be able to point to better solutions having seen how things unfolded before. So even if being older isn't unique, I think it's still interesting.
Yeah, you were talking about other pandemics. There is, of course, another thing that the United States went through that was that was really jarring to those of us who lived through it. And I'm not talking about 9/11, um, which is, I guess, I was just a teen, young teen at the time. But the AIDS epidemic of the 80s,
Hmm.
um, that was big, and that was scary. That really ravaged so many communities. Um, and by now we've almost forgotten that that was a big deal because it's no longer as big of a deal. But it was a really big deal. It was different, of course, because it didn't move at the sort of speed that coronavirus
Hmm.
does. Um, but it also impacted thousands of lives, took thousands of lives.